I'm sorry, do you want me to facilitate?
Yes.
Okay.
I realized that Matt was going to do that too, and I kind of assumed you were going to fill in for him for both roles. Sorry.
Oh, my bad. I didn't realize. I was just asking me to facilitate the breakout session that you had him down for. But yeah, no, that's fine. So good morning, everyone. My name is Devin Soper. I work at Florida State University and pleased to convene this final meeting of the Expertise Systems in Florida University Symposium. So what we have planned today is a number of breakout sessions for us to divide up into small groups and talk about topics that have and themes that have sort of surfaced over the last 6 weeks. I don't know how long we've been doing these, but over the course of the symposium so far. And I'm just going to share my screen so that you can see our facilitation document. Or is that okay if I
Yeah,
start?
yeah.
Okay.
I had limited it down to just the 5 topics. If you want to see that instead, it's up to you.
Uh, sure. Yeah, that would be fine.
Okay, so let me go here, back here, and there. Is that what you were thinking?
Yes. Yeah. So in sort of unconference style fashion, what have you, we're going to take a show of hands to sort of have people indicate their interest in these different topics. And before we get into that, just a few notes about like the overall format. What's going to happen is, Amy, would you mind taking notes on the people who raise their hands, and then we can use that info to divide people into breakout rooms.
So yeah. So I think what we'll do is, as they raise their hand, we'll go ahead and assign them at that moment.
Sure, that's
So
sounds great.
hold on. Let me get the participant list again. Um,
So
okay.
the idea is that we're going to break up into potentially these 5 groups and meet for 20 to 25 minutes and then come back and have summaries from each group.
Yeah, I think we've allowed 15 minutes after the 25-minute discussion period for each group to, I guess, provide a 3-minute update about highlights from their conversation. We also have facilitators for each of these groups, or at least I believe that we do.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
So we'll have someone who is in each of the breakout discussions and has, a list of sort of prompt questions to get the conversation started. I guess we'll need each group to elect a note taker and in order to sort of like capture the main highlights of the discussion, and then that person would also report back at the end. Does that all sound clear to everyone? Does anyone have questions or anything else they wanted to add?
This is Carol Ann. I think the one thing that might be helpful to the breakout groups is for each of the groups, we have a final question that we're going to ask each of the breakout groups to respond to. I'm Carol Ann Dykes-Logue, by the way. I'll be moderating breakout 4 on industry university partnerships. That final question is, how do we move forward from here with this group? Amy, I think it might be helpful, you and Rebecca, to just offer a few kind of some parameters of what that might mean. That's kind of a general question.
That's a good idea. Thank you. So, where we, again, obviously we're disappointed we couldn't all meet in person and network, but we hope that sometime in the future we'll be able to do that. And so the question is, how do we keep moving forward? Do we like this idea of having an annual conference? Do we want more regular interactions, maybe, quarterly a session every quarter or something, just, some topic, some kind of a community building listserv or something. So that's kind of where what we're talking about is like how do we move forward as a group and kind of keep this momentum and keep this networking going. Mm-hmm. So what would appeal to you? All right.
And Jeff has a suggestion that maybe instead of raising our hands and sort of, indicating interest in each of the groups, we could just change our names. And that's like if you sort of look in the participants pane, which you can get to if you hover down around the bottom of the Zoom window, there'll be a little a bar that pops up and participants. It looks like a couple of people. If you click that, you can see the list of participants and find yourself, right click on your name. Actually, sorry, there's a little more button. You can click the down arrow there and click rename, and you could just change your name to number 1 or breakout 1, and then it would make it really easy for Amy to assign people to rooms.
Okay, that sounds good. Oops, we lost some people. Maybe they already went to a room. Somebody's assigning them, I guess, already. All right. Yes, I think Carmi must be busy assigning people to breakouts. So I am going to how do I get me in a breakout 4?
Yeah, is Carmi doing it or we need to do
it?
it?
Yeah, Carmi must be doing it.
So she knows what moderators go where. So
yes. But I should be able to assign myself to breakout. I'm not seeing how I do that.
If you hover over your name and it says more, yeah, it says you can rename.
Oh, but I should be able to assign myself as a.
This is Jeff Onioli. I thought I'd say if there isn't interest in number 1, I'd be happy to go to another group as well. Oh, it looks like Devin will be there.
Yeah.
Okay, no worries.
No, who's assigning people?
Yeah.
All right.
Still behind.
Okay, let's see. So this is Devin and Jeff are in 1. So you can change rooms too if you decide to. So, open all rooms. That's the problem.
We might be able to combine number 1 with marketing because that is sort of a piece of marketing potentially.
I see it.
Outreach.
I have to open the rooms.
Very good.
4. All right, I'm assigning people now. It was a little, I hadn't done this before, so I was a little confused. Why is why is number 2? That's what I'm supposed to be. Why am I want to join breakout room 2. Is there anybody not assigned? Anybody who's not assigned yet? Looks like everybody's assigned. I want to change.
So did you finish up with the breakout session number 2?
Was that me? Was I in 2? Yeah, I was in 2. I lost my partner
Oh,
3 minutes ago. I don't know what happened if she lost internet connection or whatever. But so I was hanging out back here until everybody got back. Yeah, it was
all right.
awesome. I got to talk to her about some pretty cool stuff.
All right. Well, I'll put myself on pause and do some email.
Hi, y'all. I lost my connection on my main computer. So I'm using my iPad. I don't quite know why my main computer won't connect, but it's not happy.
It happens, Amy.
So I'm no longer hosting, so I cannot do anything. Because this is I always have a secondary device set up so I can make sure I'm, what I'm seeing. But anyway, so
Good though. It's good to have backup.
yes. So I'm going to see if I can get Carmi to
I'm gonna mute.
all right, break. I really don't know what's going on. Could have some internet access. All right. I'm back in. Hello.
I don't know if it is your intent, but we have two of you, Amy.
Oh, yeah, I did not mean to do that. Sorry. No, that's not what I meant. I meant to stop video. There we go. Okay. Yeah, my main computer got kicked out. Sorry about that, Kevin. And then and I had trouble rejoining. I don't know what's going on with my internet, but so I had joined with my iPad as a backup. But anyways.
I forgive you.
All right. So how's everybody doing? Everybody else do fine with their technical issues? No other issues?
Yes, ma'am. We did
Very
good.
good.
Yeah.
All right. So folks want to report on their sessions?
Sure. I guess we could start with group one. My fellow group members, would you mind if I jump in? I was taking notes, so I think I could. Okay.
That sounds great. Thanks, Devin.
Cool. I'll try to keep it under 2 minutes so that everyone else has time. So Jeff Agnoli was kind enough to show us the Ohio Innovation Exchange Experts Finder System, which is on a new tool called Discovery from Symplectic. And it looks really great. He shared a lot about the process of sort of standing that up and doing outreach and trying to engage faculty, in this case, across the state of Ohio. And yeah, so that was a great start to the conversation. They are having some issues there, especially because they've moved systems a number of times in the last decade. So there's a little bit of burnout related to any kind of new platforms. But they've tried workshops. Going out and doing workshops for various groups of faculty on campus. They've also done email campaigns, which it's always difficult to get through to people on email, but that's one thing that they've tried as well. They've also explored like partnering with vendors to develop ways to sort of curate publications and do name disambiguation, especially for getting at that audience of tenured faculty members who may have a long and storied career and just so many publications. They're a really difficult group to reach, and in terms of faculty engagement, they might be the most difficult. So in some cases, you might need to explore solutions to try and do at least some of the work for them. Another idea that we hit upon was ORCID, pushing ORCID, developing ORCID integrations with campus systems, but also engaging faculty about the benefits of having an ORCID ID and how that can save them a lot of time in populating data into these systems. ExpertNet shared about a marketing campaign that they have where they basically send out emails periodically to users of the system to let them know about how many people have viewed their profile and that kind of information, and sort of encourage them to log in and update their information and make sure that the profile is as complete as possible. And they've noticed a definite correlation between when people log in and make changes, it's usually after one of those emails. We also talked about ambassadors and how great it would be to try and find champions in different departments across an institution. And you could target people who are already active in your system and then reach out to them and sort of ask if they take on this role as an ambassador and promote the system, raise awareness in their department, help identify opportunities for outreach and that kind of thing. Is there anything I left out?
No, I think that's perfect. I can't think of anything, Carmi or
Thanks,
Jeff?
Devin. Yeah, that was great. Thanks.
All right. Our group was second, fostering research collaboration. It was myself and Kevin Danko, and So we actually didn't address our research questions as much as talked about Kevin's mission right now. He's a graduate student at UF in the Urban and Regional Planning Department, and he's interested in doing research on interdisciplinary engagement systems and trying to do qualitative and quantitative ways of looking at collaboration methods. Or I'm gonna let him tell a little bit more about what he's doing. And I thought, well, you know, got a lot of contacts here that might be able to help you out with your research. So go ahead, say that.
Put me on the spot. I wasn't expecting to speak in the
Sorry.
big. So interdisciplinary engagement systems is a name I've made up for what I want to do, which doesn't exist yet. And the real focus of what I'm trying to create, which if I succeed, my capstone project would be a new curriculum. That would be the name of it, which would just focus on finding ways to help people work together who don't realize they should be working together or don't necessarily know how to facilitate that conversation. So I was telling Amy in what's on campus, the Fine Arts Building, on the second story of the Fine Arts Building is a hall that splits the graphic design students and the architecture students, and they never work with each other. They never collaborate. And those are groups that in the workplace will work with each other, maybe should be working together while in school, but there's a hallway which may as well be a wall. So I'd like to find ways to either become that person myself or discover what the mechanism will be to metaphorically cross that hall.
All right. Great. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
Data curation.
Hi, everybody. So I had in my group Blair and Nate, and we chatted for a lot, at least initially, about our own experiences. They both have been supporting ExpertNet, and I've been working here at FIU on the Scholar site. So, you know, I think all agreed on many of the key challenges that are out there in these types of systems, and it echoed a lot of the stuff that was brought up throughout the symposium. I think in the context of ExpertNet, from what I've gathered from them, you know, it's definitely been an evolution. You know, from a data standpoint, the grants data, I think, has been the most valuable for them historically, and I think they're looking to maybe expand further. But with, you know, the expansion, there's challenges to understand based on the data element that they want to expand to. But, you know, I think I think felt pretty happy about how the community has evolved across the state. I think it was mentioned in the earlier, I think maybe Devin mentioned the word champions. I think they have done a good job at ExpertNet at identifying data champions and developing that. So I think that to me is one of the success stories that I think we could probably take going forward in terms of how we handle one of the big challenges of data. You know, but then we also talked a bit about publication data. So that was one of the questions we talked through. What are the data elements that are, you know, most relevant and most important, and which ones maybe they would expand to? And there has been discussion around publications. Again, with publications, there's all of these challenges of data silos, you know, and I think we talked then about the importance of engaging libraries in that process. I told them about how at FIU, you know, working in the research office, maybe my grants data, I had a good handle on that, but when it came to the publication side of things, so again, you know, engaging the library in this community, I think, is an important takeaway when it comes to the challenge of data specifically related to publications. And I think another key point that kind of came up in this as well is that, you know, when you scope out these expertise systems from a data standpoint, it doesn't mean that you managing expectations it's very important, but scoping it out that people can find experts, but not necessarily it be the system of record, is important because it raises the bar in terms of acceptance. And we gave examples of things, for instance, like the grant award amount and how challenging that can be to be interpreted consistently across all perspectives. So if the goal of the expertise system is to help people, I think as Kevin mentioned, sort of cross that hallway, how valuable is it really to get the amount in there correctly? Isn't it maybe more important to simplify the data sometimes and use things like keywords, for instance? That was another thing we talked a lot about, is if we were, in terms of moving forward, maybe some of the champions could talk about some types of standards across some of these data elements, to sort of break it down, and that we could maybe be speaking the same language, because my interpretation of the grants file that I give ExpertNet may be different than the interpretation that UF has in FSU. So I think we just, in terms of moving forward, said maybe some ideas of simplifying, thinking of some standards. I don't know if Blair or Nate, did I miss anything else?
Seems to cover what we talked about.
Next, breakout 4, industry university partnerships.
Hello, I'm Carolyn, and Stephanie and Catherine and I were in that breakout session. We had a great conversation. Stephanie is at FIU, and gotta love her title. She is an experienced design strategist working with faculty startups at Startup FIU. So we had a lot of great conversation just quizzing her about how you become an experiential design strategist. Catherine is at The Ohio State and has worked with Amy and Rebecca on ExpertNet, I believe, and is part of a group you're developing an expert system there for Ohio, it sounds like, and works with the Ohio Manufacturing Institute as well. So our topic was industry university partnerships. I'll share a few of the notes that I took and then have the two of them jump in as well. We really only addressed a couple of key questions. We started out talking about the question, what else do you try to find out about the experts as you are working through this facilitation of a relationship between a faculty member or expert and a outside organization, typically an industry, obviously. We talked a lot about figuring out which faculty have some industry experience, what that might mean. It can look a little different or might need to look a little different. Ask different questions if it's a small company, an early stage company working on an SBIR versus a large organization that's doing different kind of earlier applied research. And Catherine shared a really interesting tidbit about an industry badge added to profile. And Catherine, you can jump in and elaborate on this a little bit, but really enabling an outside organization to quickly filter for those faculty that have industry experience of some sort. We then talked about, well, does that put those that don't have that industry badge at a bit of a disadvantage? And we discussed that a little bit too. And she brought up the point that they have industry liaisons at each university in the state that they rely on to help facilitate these relationships and make sure that the right faculty get connected to the outside entity. And because it may be those that didn't show up in the filtering using that industry badge or the indication of industry experience. So Catherine, you want to elaborate any on that?
I think you outlined it well. I think that's it in a nutshell. Oh, Jeff is advertisement.
Yay. I love
Ohio.
That. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. Very good.
Yeah.
Though, curiously though, I don't think you can actually search for that. So it's part of people's profile, but I don't think we ever built in a search mechanism.
I think that comment was in relation to dimensions, which you're moving to. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're on dimensions now, but we're moving to discovery. So this is
Oh,
the
okay.
current platform.
Okay, discovery, excuse me. Discovery, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was me. I got it switched.
Yeah.
But it will be searchable in the discovery. But we won't have that pretty badge anymore.
So Amy, Rebecca, I don't know what your thoughts are about ExpertNet and creating that icon, somehow that badge, but I really like that idea. We have other conversations about that.
In our new redesign, we have moved towards badges, and right now with COVID-19 on that site, people can earn a badge and have a badge as COVID-19 ready.
Oh, I did see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the challenge would be determining who gets the badge, right? You know, creating the badge is not a big deal, but figuring out who gets assigned that badge.
Well, my understanding is they select that if they have industry experience. So
yeah, that's great. And working with the industry liaison at each university, that's also a great idea.
And we talked a lot about the importance of having someone who facilitates, counsels, coaches both sides in that relationship. Just going back to some of our conversation last week, making sure those expectations are correct and that they understand the language translation that often has to help. The last question that we were all asked to answer, how would we like to move forward with this community? There were two great suggestions there. Catherine brought up the international connectivity and moving forward, having more engagement internationally across this topic and with this group. And I loved Stephanie's point about the weekly cadence that we've had so far in these sessions and how from a learning theory and learning capability, those smaller bites like that and then the weekly sequence was really helpful in building on what we talked about and reinforcing and facilitating learning. We didn't come up with any specific suggestion other than monthly was kind of where we settled going forward for virtual sessions.
Okay.
With an international flair to them, perhaps.
Okay.
Anything else, ladies, that I missed there?
Well, I think if, as we move forward, especially Amy and Rebecca, I mean, I think it would be helpful if we could have some kind of, maybe even a learning exchange, because we've learned so much from these sessions that we have taken to our colleagues. And I would think that other systems would benefit as well. And, that's the whole purpose of what we're doing with the Expert Finder Systems Forum. Mm-hmm. And so finding ways to benefit, use the relationship there to benefit.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So the last one is we didn't do the last one, right? Marketing and outreach.
Right.
So what are, I don't know about the rest of you, but in our session, we certainly didn't get to that last question about going forward. What are some other people's ideas about how to proceed?
Well, I like the idea of, whatever we do, if it's something we do on a quarterly basis, that there's always time to maybe have these small breakouts, because, I learned a lot today, learned a lot from the group that I was with. And it's nice to be able just to talk, and especially since we can't be face to face. So for me personally, I like that. I like the idea of maybe doing something quarterly where, it's one session, maybe two, I don't know, but
yeah,
that would be my preference.
Yeah, I think it's been very valuable just to meet people in this process. And I was saying in our breakout that it may be a blessing in disguise that instead of having just one meeting where everything's crammed in one day in person, I think we've built some relationships. So I think continuing that meetings and also saying to people that have attended and soliciting if they have something they want to talk about, feeling free to suggest doing a session on something. If they have some story to tell or some expertise to share, then I think that's something we should encourage for future sessions.
All right. Anybody else? So I know just personally, I have enjoyed the weekly session, but as the person sort of keeping it going, it's also very exhausting. So my goal would be to disperse some of the responsibilities going forward, to kind of create, a bigger community. And I think I like your idea of like maybe asking people, do you want to do a presentation? And then, kind of set up, whether it be monthly or quarterly, set up a schedule and then ask people if they want to present and or discuss. If we could set up some that were just purely like this discussion,
Right.
discussing and breaking up into breakouts. Even if it were one topic thing, we could still break up into different breakout rooms to.
Yeah.
I'd love to see some demonstrations too of some other systems that some
Right.
of you have.
Right.
Good idea.
So maybe different universities could host,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they could.
And I'd
lead
love
the
to hear from,
discussion.
I'd love to hear from some of the faculty, maybe that have
Yes.
pretty active in expert system, and maybe even some of the external users occasionally. Just that
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important to hear from the people that are using the system and hearing their success stories about using it, because that sometimes is the question: is that if you build it, will people use it? And I know that in our instance, our vice president for research talks openly about how he uses it in certain contexts, and that really resonates with people. So I think getting people out there that are end users that will talk about it would be really helpful for the momentum.
Yeah.
Sounds like a great topic for the next one.
Does.
use case scenarios. That would be good.
And I'd love to have video of that we could put on ExpertNet.
Yeah.
For all of us could do that.
Testimonials. Oh,
Yes, testimonials. That would be super.
All right. So is there anything else anyone wants to bring up or?
Thank you again for hosting it and for
Thank you.
leading us through this. We really appreciate it.
Welcome.
Plug the national forum, maybe?
Oh yes, so we are going to have a national forum. Sorry, it's a good pointer. The Expert Finders Systems National Forum. We are in the process of trying to figure out how we're gonna deploy that, given the current environment. It was supposed to be in October of this year, but obviously that's not going to work as far as meeting in person. We were really looking forward to being in Miami, but maybe next year.
Yeah.
You'll all be added to our mailing list for that. And, so we'll be getting out hopefully soon some plans for how that's going to proceed. So I'll just ask you guys kind of quickly, just for a quick, for that forum, we're trying to figure out how to do it. We chose for this forum to do it the 1 hour per week for 8 weeks, basically is what we've done this for, except I guess the first week we had two different days. Because at the time we didn't know, we hadn't attended any virtual conferences. It seemed, that seemed to be what people had thought might work the best in this context. So now that we've all had time to not only attend this, but maybe attend some other conferences, what are some of your recommendations or things that you like, you've seen, whether in this conference or in other ones that you would recommend for a national conference that we're going to be doing, or international conference, really? So any pointers, votes, ideas?
I've been a part of a Team Science virtual conference recently. I don't know if anybody did any of that, but it was challenging. It was there were morning workshops and then afternoon workshops that went every day till like 4 o'clock, and it was sequential days. It was hard to fit that in over the course of a week. I really like this either once a week or once every other week. cadence.
Okay.
I think it keeps the momentum going and the relationships, and yeah.
And this kind of was mentioned earlier, but I think the process of soliciting people and involving people for proposals, maybe, because I think we, in this first go around for this group, tried to really think through in advance what could be the topics and let's put an agenda out there. But sending that out, asking people to submit a proposal, I don't know, maybe that's already in the works, is asking the audience. Then you get like a broader pool of proposals, and then maybe have a review process for those.
Right.
Right. Yeah, I think that would help to bring in more people and keep people engaged. But as far as the schedule part too, it's like, I've seen some that would have maybe 3 days sequentially, but just a couple hours each day, or, and very short sessions, or maybe 2 or 3 days a week over 2 weeks. I mean, I was just curious what people liked about any conferences they have attended and what they didn't like, because we have to make that decision about this one to figure out how to go forward. But yes, we're definitely going to be for the National Forum going to be asking for people to propose sessions.
Yeah, I mean, I personally kind of like the way this is broken up over time in smaller pieces. I just haven't been since the coronavirus thing, been involved in a conference that's been like a block of 2-3 days.
Okay.
But I like this because it's smaller and you can fit it in over time. But that's just my own personal experience. I don't know if the others feel the same way.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's helpful. We'll actually be sending out a survey soon asking people what they want, but I just thought it would be good, since I have you all here, to ask those questions. All right. Very good. Well, thank you all for attending today and attending for the last several weeks. And this has been very helpful for us. I hope it's been informative and helpful for y'all.
Thank you very much. Yep.
Yeah.
Have a great rest of the week.
Yep. You too.
And a very special thank you to you, Amy, for all of your work on this. And
Thank you.
she's put in many hours, and you've done a fantastic job. And I also want to thank Carmi Greenwood for handling all of the marketing for the event, which is no small task either. And and Janet Diaz, who's done all of the minutes and turned these sessions into videos, etc. So I mean, there's been quite a team here that has worked on it.
And thank you to our steering committee as well, David, and, Becky, and I think we're missing most of our steering committee today. It's a pretty busy time.
David and David's here, and Devin.
Oh, sorry, David. Yeah, David, Brian, the Kevin Barnes. Kevin Hansen and Chris Barnes from UF. Carol Ann Dykes-Loge, who was here, but she's had to leave. She's on our committee too. And Matt Schwartz from UF, who was also unable to attend today. The last day of the fiscal year, and in the midst of a pandemic, everybody's pretty busy. So this was a rough day for some to come, but I'm glad you all were able to make it. And I may reach out, to some of you to just connect you with Kevin Danko here. Just, if he might be looking for some contacts to try and figure out his thesis for his master's. So, anyways, all right. Well, take care, everyone. Thanks again. It's been a great.
Thank you so much, Amy. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
Amy. Bye.
Bye. All right.
So, Amy and Carmi, can we talk for a minute?
Sure. All right. Oh, heavy sigh.
It's over. It's
I
over.
before I forget, so I sort of hooked that Kevin up with Nashir.
Oh,
Not-
good.
But I told him go find Nashir's website and his Facebook and Twitter because he's very active. And he would get him in all that network science stuff. Although I understand doing sort of at the under like a more the curriculum level is a different thing, but still he should at least understand there are people thinking about network science before he tries to reinvent it.
Right. That's very good. I had mentioned Nashir to him, but I mentioned a lot of names. He's a little he seems pretty new to the academic program, so he's a little wandering right now. I think he's got some ideas what he wants to do, but he doesn't really know who to contact. So I gave him a bunch of names, but it may have been a little overwhelming. So I'll send him some more. But it seems like Chris and Kevin right there at UF would be his first contacts.
Well, I wonder, do we know who sent him because he would not have received our email. So I wonder how he got connected, whether it could have been Chris or Kevin or.
Well, he didn't seem to know their names.
Oh, okay. And he studies in urban planning. We do send to everybody who is in ExpertNet, who is a social scientist of some certain sort. So maybe his professor just said, hey. Totally random person we've never met. So anyways, interesting to know. I'm asked.
But it would be curious to know. Well, I have to ask him.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Anyway.
He needs a starting place for sure.
Yeah, and when we send out invitations, like even the National Forum, let your graduate students know.
Yeah. Well, and remember we had talked one time, and of course it could be different now, but we had talked one time about maybe like offering a scholarship or two to graduate students.
Yes.
Something which
I think we should.
If we charge.
I don't think we're going to be charging, but if we do, that would be good.
Charge.
Yeah.
I think you want to give it that that real thing for these crowd, have grad students be able to come.
So what I think we should do is send out just a